Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting edition of Two Men in Black and White, an honest conversation. All right, folks, let's be real. This guy's off his rocker. He is out there like Pluto. I mean, he does not know what's going on. Donald Trump's town hall today off the rails, or his press conference, whatever you want to call it. I mean, he doesn't take questions that often, but when he does, boy, and it is not even Tuesday, but we love tacos. I'm joined by my partner, Brock Ganeles. He's here now with another look at what's happening out here in the crazy, crazy world that is U.S. politics. Brock, Taco Tuesday. It's tacos every day for this guy. That's Donald Trump's new nickname, apparently, on Wall Street. What's really happening on Wall Street, Brock?
I love the financial bros on Wall Street, of which I was one, right? They're kind of mocking Trump, and they're trying to figure out his lunacy and how to make money off of his lunacy so that it's not just absolute chaos out there. So I think for those who think that Trump is a genius and is manipulating the market and playing games and making money off the volatility he creates, he's not smart enough to figure that out. He's a moron. But Wall Street has to try to figure it out because he's creating volatility. Traders love volatility, and the question is how to make money off of it. So they've figured out the way to make money off it is that Trump, the taco trade, that Trump always chickens out, which means after the markets go down, when Trump announces aggressive tariffs, the play is to buy stocks while they're down because Trump will chicken out and pull back on the tariffs, and there'll be a recovery rally because things will feel like they're going back to normal.
Right.
So the Wall Street bros are doing the taco trade and trying to game the Mad King. The funny part of today, though, is a couple things. Number one, somebody actually asked him a tough question, or a question that could embarrass him, which is rare because they've kind of weeded out most of the press, right? And it's really down to OANN and Fox, and like it's a friendly brigade of
Right.
press. That was one funny part, and the second one was that first he didn't pretend like he couldn't hear it. Then he rambled, right? Then he rambled, and then he insulted, right? It was the
Right.
classic Trump response. But
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, I think he looked like a fool today, and I always love when that happens. And I applaud whoever asked the question.
Yeah, I mean, he can't even keep up with his own lunacy and his policies. He doesn't know what they are. That's why he needed time to answer the French reporter and to pretend he couldn't understand what she was saying, before he went into his rambling, his insulting and his normal pattern of, treachery that he calls, I mean, he thinks he's balling. He thinks he's a player, and he thinks
The
he's
weave,
killing.
the weave is him just like rambling around till he kind of gets to a conclusion that he thinks
Right.
he's won, where he thinks he's won the moment, right? And then he thinks he lands on his feet, thinks he's just done the triple Lundy, and there's a triple Lundy. Is that a reference that black people use? The triple Lundy?
No.
That's
I don't know who Lundy is, much
like
less three of them.
who's that insult comic? I can't even think of his name now. It's from a movie where an absurd movie who does a triple flip. Anyway, speaking of that, I guess that's a white guy term. The triple Lindy is like doing a very difficult, like, flip off
Nasty.
of 3 different diving boards and land with a perfect dive. So that was the
Okay.
triple Lundy from.
Gotcha. Black folks only watch the Olympics,
It's
bro.
very much a white guy term. Another white guy term for you. Do black guys use the term Groundhog Day?
Nah, not really.
Okay, so you know what? Do you know what that reference is?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
because you're a media guy, so you know that was a
Right.
media movie from Bill
Right.
Murray's Groundhog Day. I got
Oh, no.
accused. My wife was questioning me on the podcast, like, "You guys still talked about the same thing every day," and I'm like, "Well, it's a variation of the same thing. It's a variation of complaining about America slipping into fascism
It is
while we all
crazy.
sit around and watch it like spectators." So I guess
Right.
it is kind of Groundhog's Day for all of us. Trump does lunacy.
We
We get
respond.
outraged. We get outraged.
Right.
We respond, and Project 2025 marches on. So yeah, it's been 130 days of Groundhog Days. That's Bill Murray movie, of course.
Right.
which I thought you'd appreciate because it is about a newscaster who's sent out on a shitty assignment, right? To cover the ground.
I can relate. I can relate. And and the thing about it too, Brock, but it's almost like because we feel ourselves doing that, right? Your wife's criticism is valid, right? We feel ourselves doing, but we feel like if we don't, who will, right? It's like if we don't stand up and scream from the rafters, like why isn't anybody paying attention to this moron
Like yesterday, like if you don't point out the corruption every day and
every day?
everything that goes on, then you've just normalized
Yep,
and accepted it. And
yep,
if there's not going to be articles of impeachment, right?
yep,
Because this is illegal,
right.
then and the DOJ is in the pocket of the president because we now have no separation between those two.
No,
There's right,
right,
except to try to bring light to these absurdities and these illegalities and hopefully convince one person at a time to stop supporting
right,
this Project 2025 movement, which is benefiting like 1% of the country
right.
and denigrating it for the rest of us.
Right. And again, too, we have to address, the chasm that is the communication between, Black America and white America. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna ask people to go and watch the Roland Martin rant against your boy Bernie Sanders. Took him to task, and I want us to watch this together and talk about it because
Bernie's not my boy. I like his policies. I've said I love Bernie Sanders' policies and his consistency on the working class and labor unions. And Bernie Sanders articulates the class warfare in America better
right,
than any politician I've seen in my life, and he's done it for 50 years.
and he's
Bernie
consistent.
Sanders has a blind spot when it comes to race. He brings everything back to class, but he doesn't kind of misses the boat that racism has gotten intertwined with those two things, and you don't see the working class white and the working class black bond together. The only time they're ever together is when they're out on a picket line together. And I always come back to the fact that the Teamsters wouldn't endorse Kamala Harris, even though we know all the rank and file wanted it. But the management or the leaders felt that they couldn't do it. So that's where I will watch the Roland Martin. But if that's what his criticism of
That's where
Bernie,
he is
this is
too.
why Bernie couldn't become president because he couldn't win the Democratic Party. He could never win more than a certain percentage of the party because he never got the black vote, and Biden would get it. So even though he had a great message that seemed like it should have resonated with everyone, he has a blind spot. Maybe it's being a Vermont senator for so long, and you don't have to talk to those constituents, or just
And
it
that's
just
where
is what it
Roland is.
is. So if Roland's saying that, I agree with him on that. That's why I think AOC is a better messenger of Bernie's message than Bernie is, and I think she has the chance to go further in her career because she combines the economic message with the social message.
Right, right.
So
And
I'll watch
100%.
Roland's, but you go. I'll let you speak again. It was that the
Yeah.
gist of Roland's comments?
And again, addressing this chasm that we have in terms of the communication, right? And black folks and white folks not understanding where we are. More so, in my opinion, speaking from the darker side of things, white folks understanding how difficult it is, and getting more difficult with each policy that Project 2025 implements to be black in America, right? Like I'm literally concerned that we could be disappeared off streets as African Americans because of Trump's policies and because of canine killing Christy Nome. They're not worried about habeas corpus. She doesn't even know what it means.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So each of these policies concern me. And I feel like until we start, embracing each other's culture, like, there are white folks who don't interact with black Americans at all. And vice versa. There are black folks who don't interact with white America. You could be a millionaire here in Atlanta, which has the most black millionaires of any state in the country, and not do business with white America. It just is what it is. But I don't know any other place where you can do that. There aren't many cities where Black America can do really well in entrepreneurial pursuits and not have to either have white customers or, white connections in order to continue to facilitate their business pursuits. But that gets us away from the crazy of today. The other thing that stood out to me and I thought was very concerning is here he goes again with his pardons, talking about pardon the lunatics that plotted to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. Gretchen's one of my favorites. I really like Gretchen Whitmer. I had a spot for her in Kamala's cabinet, and I really like her possibilities moving up the ladder in the political world. I think she's pragmatic. I think she gets America. I think she comes from a place of care and concern when it comes to her constituents. And when it comes to governance, we don't have many people like her. I saw her much the way I saw her as a white version of Kamala, actually. And I'm a big fan. So I was furious today when he talked about, yeah, a lot of people, a lot of people, here he goes again. A lot of people are saying, those guys got railroaded. What are you talking about? Dead to rights.
There's a lot of people that believe are flat earthers, right? Like there's a
Right.
lot of people for everything, right? There's a lot of
Right.
people in the world. There's somebody for every opinion. So that whole lot of people thing is always whole lot of bullshit.
Bullshit. Yeah.
Gretchen will probably run for president. Oh, I thought you were going to hit up the corruption of the last two pardons, but yeah, today he floated the pardoning of the Whitmer kidnappers, which is kind of like, I guess, what's in it for him. Maybe it pleases the hardcore Patriot Front and 3%er types, like the militant wing of MAGA that he always wants to stay in favor with because he knows there's going to be a day where he's going to want to invoke their violence.
Right. And that's what I think he's doing too. That you hit it dead on. I think that he wants that to send that message of as long as you're for me, we can be lawless.
Yeah, Jan 6. Yeah, the
Yeah,
Jan 6 pardons, right? It's just a kind of an extension of that.
exactly.
Interesting that the head of the DC police retired this morning and then came out and took a whole bunch of shots of what an insult it was to the police that the Jan 6 rioters were pardoned. I mean, he held his tongue till retirement day, but not a minute longer.
You're right.
Literally in his retirement press conference, he said what he's probably been waiting to say for, 4 years.
Exactly. And who can blame him, with the games that they were playing with people's money and everything and, taking benefits away from people. Again, people are making people. I was having that conversation again earlier today with some friends about, the lack of sacrifice that we are willing to make as Americans. People and look, I don't begrudge Chief for waiting until he was retired, got his paperwork in, got your pension, got everything in order, your health care.
Waiting for that last check, went to the ATM, made sure that last check was in the account.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to go to the press conference.
Yes,
now I got something to say. But Mark, as you said with the, getting back to the social thing, it's like, why not, right? Like, you don't have to have been a fan of Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, right? You don't have to be, a Caddyshack guy, right?
Right.
Any more than maybe I Need to Love Coming to America, even though I kind of do, right? Like, maybe our cultures, races are gonna, have us loving different kind of entertainment. Maybe part of our culture, the movies that like kind of become the catchphrases that we use are going to be different, right? But we're certainly going to have crossover as well. But I think why is it so hard for us to just recognize and appreciate like the excellence elsewhere, even if it wasn't like your kind of movie?
Right.
Maybe it didn't. You mentioned like Lil Wayne yesterday. Like, I'm not a Lil Wayne guy. I couldn't name a Lil Wayne song. Right. I know he's great at what he does, so I don't begrudge him. I don't have to love him any more than you have to love Neil Diamond. Not asking to love Neil Diamond or Coming to America, the movie about America, like his life story movie, which is also, I think,
I love
the white Jewish guy classic.
Right. Neil Diamond from Saving Silverman was hilarious. I mean, I caught up with his songs, but I don't understand why we can't appreciate the best of each other. Right? Like none of us are excited about crime, treachery, and the BS, but we should all be on the page with overall excellence. And I think that's where the issue becomes, right? It's like, there's a line drawn and nobody wants to cross it, and then we have those levels of expectation. I remember a teacher said to me at Lakeland Middle School when I won the 8th grade spelling bee, the teacher's comment was, "Oh, so you're not just the class clown, you got a brain in there." And I was like, "You've been in, this was like the end of the year, too, end of the school year." Now, Rick Shelton was in that spelling bee, Cindy Rankin, Bauer, like we had
Yeah,
some kids.
are you going to get pissed at me that I'm surprised to hear that you won that? I didn't know you won that. I'm gonna go talk to Bauer. I'm gonna go talk to Bauer. Where did he fuck up? What did he get wrong?
And the winning word
Cindy
was
Rankin,
coagulant.
you wouldn't have won my class. Bertha Chang won like
Yeah.
12 years in a row.
Yeah, I
12
couldn't.
years.
Yeah,
She's probably still winning spelling bees.
exactly. but but the thing is, that expectation, right? Like we expect, I another classic example. A friend was showing me some workspaces down, beautiful workspace, shared workspace building downtown Atlanta, giving me the tour, stops to introduce me to a fella that he knows that has been working in the area for a while, and they were actually a marketing company doing really well. And he, turns and says, "Hey, do you know this guy?" And points to me, and he says, "Oh no, if it's sports, I don't watch." Assuming I'm a, former athlete or something, or a pro athlete or something. And why couldn't I be a, brain surgeon, an accountant, a lawyer, anything but sports, right? And so we get into these levels of expectation that we have, and these preconceived notions that we've, developed over time, right? Largely through the media. And Brock, I'll be honest with you, that was one of the reasons why I left. I just said, I don't want to continue reinforcing these stereotypes. And it's the same thing that we're doing now. We are normalizing Trump, right? They're reporting on, like, the Labor Day expenses. Like it's like this president's doing something normal, right? Like, yeah, this is going to be the most expensive holiday since, whatever. Why are you normalizing this? Why are you reporting on this guy, like he's doing anything well? He's not doing anything well for this country or anyone but himself. Why are you not reporting every day? They could report on they could have a corruption segment every day. Here's Donald Trump's latest corruption segment. We did it to dirty restaurants. We did it to crime infested areas, right? We had special reports. When I worked in Baltimore, we had a 22-minute crime block right after Oprah. Oprah went off at 4:58. We came on and did crime all the way until 5:20. Wouldn't take a commercial, right? And who do you think was the perpetrators of most of those crimes, right? They were happening in the inner city. If you ever seen, The Wire, you got a good idea of what's going on, right? And it's them. And we're doing the same thing when we normalize Trump and his minions and their behavior. And the congressmen, that don't read the bill before they have a town hall and vote. Before they vote, then go to a town hall and say, "Oh, I'm sorry. In this district in Nebraska, what was this congressman's name, Brock, who held the town hall?"
God, Flood.
His name.
Flood
Yeah,
from
Flood.
Nebraska.
Flood.
Yeah.
And these folks are like, why are you going along with Trump? Why is that not on the news? Why is that in our reporting? There's only a few straight shooters out there, and that ain't enough.
That's a big story. I mean, he went for an hour. I give him credit for showing up.
Right.
Not for not reading the bill, having voted on it, and then answering every question as if he disagreed with what's in the bill and disagrees with Trump on every policy, but says he's gone along in lockstep with other Republicans while citizen after citizen asked a question and challenged him, and he would come out and say, "Oh yeah, I was a lawyer. I totally believe in separation of powers. I totally believe in the sanctity of the judiciary. I totally think that Trump has overstepped his bounds. I totally say we should not be cutting Medicaid." And they're kind of like, "But you just voted for a bill that's doing all of those things." He literally apologized for not reading it, but said that he'd gone to the senators from Nebraska and told them all the problems he has with the bill now that he's read it. So now it's their job to make those changes.
Right.
I was just thinking to myself, I was like, why do you have this job? I simply don't even understand why you're in the process, why you voted, why you even have a seat in Congress. Like, what do you do but show up and show that you didn't really do your job? you disagree with your own vote, and therefore have you reflected the will of the people or not? That MAGA white crowd from Nebraska is sitting there telling him his job is to go against Donald Trump, who's doing things that are against what they're for. So, I mean, white America has this massive disconnect. We touched on it. We Groundhog Dayed it yesterday and wondering what Western North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee, Kentucky, and Arkansas citizens were thinking of not getting any FEMA aid after natural disasters. And now I wonder about Nebraska. Like, the voters are all just sitting there wondering why their representative is pushing along policies that go against them and their interests. And they're literally now telling their congressman that his job is to basically thwart Donald Trump's initiatives.
Right.
None of them said it. None of them called him a lunatic, a psychopath, or a malignant narcissist or a moron. But it was implied in all the boos and the catcalls.
Right. And that's the thing. He doesn't care. Trump doesn't care. Right. And now, so what your boy Mike Flood did is shift the onus from himself to those senators. They've got the same pressure on them, if not more. Right. From the Trump wing, Trump's going to be coming after those senators like, wait a minute, you don't vote. What? You better put my stuff in there.
Yeah.
You better put the things that I need in there to get away with the criming that I'm currently engaged in. Right. I don't want to be found in contempt. Leave that in there. Right.
The only thing good about the Senate is they got 6-year terms. So you may have a couple of them. One of them, I have to look up. Maybe one of them, just got voted in or has another 4 years. Feels like they have enough time to actually act in a way, that's in the interest of the people and not just their self-interest of what's going to get them through a primary, which is also just an absurd notion.
Right. And just a sad way to do business. Speaking of doing business against the people, wow, it's not good for your brand, especially if you're Tesla. Now we got Tesla stamped ecstasy pills popping up in the Diddy trial. I love it. I love it. I love it. The brand has gone to shit.
I didn't get, white America's not watching the Diddy trial as closely as Black America. That's a new one. Okay.
Isn't that awesome? Isn't that awesome? That's great for the brand. I love it for the brand, which has gone to shit. European sales just cut by like
50%.
49%.
Yeah, 49%. But interesting that Elon Musk decided today that he's going to be a critic of the administration now. Yeah. That he is against the big, beautiful bill and that it's too expensive and not aligned with his interest as a former, politician or politically adjacent citizen, right? Who's now just a businessman, CEO / spaceship operator.
Right.
Now he's got a lot to say. He doesn't like what he sees in Washington now that he's back in Austin.
Right. I think he should give up some of those billion-dollar contracts that he suckered us for while he was in the doji business. And, the thing about it is he ain't building that brand back up to what it was. Losing a couple $100 billion sure it changes your outlook on things. When people shut your dealerships down, America hates that brand and so does the world. He'll never get past that salute.
I was going to say, yeah, he thinks we're going to forget a Nazi salute?
Right.
You think we're going to forget that he took aid away and starving kids are now getting emaciated and dying of starvation because he decided that Doji needed, our social security numbers?
Right. And all that money from research over at the CDC, all those amazingly talented people that were cut in the federal government, let's talk about the air traffic controllers, right? He's got us flying around here, spinning a freaking, like we're playing, slots in Vegas when we get on a flight.
There's no coming back for Musk, but I want to hit on I got a couple other quick hitters before we go for the day. Number one is, who in the fuck is possibly making their health decisions based upon what RF Kennedy Jr. tells them to do. Now he's not telling kids and pregnant women shouldn't take the COVID vaccine, right? Just random, like his idiotic shit, even though a new strain of COVID is running rampant through Asia. So look for that to hit the US, even though we don't keep track of the statistics anymore. There's going to be a wave of COVID here in the US. But who the fuck, there's that old saying, right? Like, I don't respect the person, but I respect the office, and people say that when they go to see Trump in the presidency. And I think that quote is a horse shit. Yeah, I guess I respect the director of Health and Human Services, but fuck RFK Jr. Anyone who's listening to a word he says, like, is an idiot and your health is about to go in decline. Ignore that fucker. I don't care what job he has.
Right.
I don't know how
At
you
all
feel about
costs.
the RFK's advice.
At all costs. Again, another situation where the media has dropped the ball, right? What happened to the measles situation in West Texas, New Mexico, right? What did all those people do? Why aren't we following up on what's happening there, right? If you're immunized, you can go cover that story, right? If you've had your shot. The danger is for people who are listening to these fucking nut jobs and not vaccinating their children, right? Why are we not talking about this on the evening news every night? And I know they're not talking about it, and I don't even watch, right? Because it should be more of a buzz in the streets. It should be what we are talking about in the line at the grocery store. It should be frightening us all because it's not just the measles that's going to come back. The mumps, rubella, all these things that we had eradicated because of vaccines and not give, you don't get the vaccine and get autism.
And COVID's the here and now. Like 400 people in the U.S. died from COVID last week, right? Like it hasn't gone away. It's just not overwhelming our lives. Now we have an idiot in charge who's decided that vaccines don't work. Now we're just inevitably going to, like, another strain pops up, right? Which means we'll need another booster to cover the strain, which we knew 4 years ago we were going to have to be taking a new shot every year because, hey, it's an incurable virus. So, like, the best you can do is immunize your body's defenses against it. We don't do that. We're just going to get another wave of COVID on top of measles, on top of, like, listeria outbreaks of people, like, getting sick or dying from eating lettuce that don't even get publicized, and, like, people just disappear, right? They're just dying. It's why we're third in the world in life expectancy and dropping because we've allowed a secondary maniac to the moron lunatic in chief run our national health care.
Right. And our food safety programs, right? Like our food safety programs are designed now to help these food manufacturers make more money. It's all about the greed.
Yeah.
It all comes back to the dollar. If I don't have to check for listeria and all this stuff and, to make sure the milk is processed properly at the right temperature, blah, 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 I can make more money. I choose more money. And that's what's happening. It's when it all comes down to it all comes down to the almighty dollar, right? And these greedy ass goons, that have, finagled their way into fucking cabinet position. How did RFK even get in there?
Only because the person at top, the decision maker sitting on top of all of this,
right,
is a psychopath who's in mental decline. So he doesn't even grasp these concepts, right? It doesn't affect him, right? And even when it affected him and he got saved by modern medicine on COVID directly,
hello.
As soon as he's healthy again, he creates a different reality for himself. He wipes that out. He gaslights himself and then gaslights the rest of us as if he's wiped that episode out of his life that he got saved by the modern research around COVID that we've now stopped funding.
And then don't forget, this time around with Trump 2.0, he fired the fucking guy who saved his life. That guy's not even there anymore because he got walked out. He got pink slipped.
Yeah, because now he was an inconvenience now because MAGA's become anti-vaccine, so even that guy gets discarded, right? Everyone eventually gets discarded. Musk discarded, right? Like people are just used and there's no relationships. They're all transactional, and once their value is used up, they're just discarded. Rudy Giuliani, where the fuck is he? Right? You saying about what's his name, Navarro, right? Like people just like speaking of disappearing, like they may
Right.
be thrown in the back of vans.
Man.
They may be sitting in like one of Eric Prince's dark cells.
Right. Oh, that fucking guy. Just his name gives me the
I
creeps.
mean, you know, he's getting hired by Haiti. So yeah, that's where we are now. I mean, we're probably butting up against our time. What we didn't get to, which is something that maybe you caught because it was a crossover of white and black America, which was some commentary at the American Music Awards, or was it the Country Awards?
American Music
With
Awards just happened.
Shabuzi and Megan Maroney on the stage together, and Megan Maroney, the White Star, attributing the roots and the history of country music to a white family, which is
Ooh,
the classic whitewashing of history
yes, sir.
versus acknowledging the roots of country music in the black experience. And
Hello.
I don't know if you've seen that clip yet. And Shabuzi
Oh,
basically giving like the look like, oh
what are
shit,
you
this is
talking about?
happening right here on stage, right in
Woo, right.
front of me, with
Can't
me
do
right.
that to the
I'm
Shaboos.
right here. Like this shit runs deep.
I'll have to check
And it was
that
an
out.
interesting like cultural moment that probably, you know,
Well, we
in a
haven't seen
way,
anything.
would have 10 years ago, Shabuzi wouldn't have been on the stage, and no one would have even done a double take on it. But you know, this is why they don't want America educated, because once you're educated, once you know something, you can't unknow it. So like once you know, oh well, you know what, the roots of country music is kind of a false history has been told here.
No doubt. No doubt. Beyonce's gotten a lot of backlash for getting into the genre and, creating these line dances and everything. Boots on the ground is real hot right now. You go to the parties and everybody's trying to learn the latest, cowboy Carter steps. And, we got to get the cultures closer together. We got to get a better understanding. And again, with every day, Project 2025 is able to implement some of their horse shit, we get drawn farther and farther apart.
Yeah,
And
every day that the Ten Commandments are sitting in the classroom
right.
instead of like real history, every day that a state like Oklahoma
Oh my God.
sanctions that they're going to formally teach that the 2020 election was stolen as history, that's
A
you
problem.
know, that's really where Project 2025 is going, and trying to create a white supremacy society, right? They're trying to change our history. Our history's already been told in a revisionist manner. Now they're trying to even push it further
Further
in
away
that
from the truth.
direction. I know, and I mean, I guess that's why we're trying to do this, because we're trying to maybe set a little bit of an example that
Right.
it's not that fucking hard for
No.
black and white people to talk about
Right.
politics and culture and society, and acknowledge our differences and laugh at our differences, and
Right.
and
Right.
and
And
laugh and
appreciate our
share and smile
similarity.
at our commonalities, and even sometimes where the differences overlap but in different ways. It
Right.
doesn't matter that at like your barbecue the conversation might be different than at my barbecue.
Right.
So
But
what?
but the great equalizer is sports, which is why I love the behind the scenes stuff. I'll never forget the Shannon Sharp and Tony Siragusa, interaction during training camp with the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, that's some of the funniest stuff I had ever seen. And when you see, the players together as one, it reminds you that it is possible, right? To sit next to a white guy and get to know him and become friends with him and be in his wedding, or and take a but the country is browning every day. Just look at the number of interracial marriages now versus 10 years ago. They're through the roof. And it's because people start understanding who we are as people. It has nothing to do with the exterior and everything to do with our insides. That's how we've been friends for 50 years, right? Because we knew to pass the rock to the guy in front of us, right? And let me tell you something. My senior year, when we lost that game at County Center, I wasn't upset because the season was over. I wasn't upset because we weren't going to play the winner of Peekskill Woodlands the following night. I was upset because it was over, right? And because we wouldn't be together on those
Yeah.
trips and at your house with me football and watching the Super Bowl. I was upset because this group of men, young men was going to go in all our different directions. And that's what was more upsetting to me than losing that game. Although we
Yeah.
should.
That's that's the sad part. But then once but look at us now, 40 years later or so, right? Like once you shared the stories and shared the experiences, right, it changes you, and you're never it never leaves you. Like you just carry it with you the rest of your life, right? It shapes, it kind of shapes who you are, it helps shape who you are as a person. So, I mean, I hope that's still going on with younger people today. I think it is. I worry when I hear the stories about radicalization, especially of men,
Right.
white men, because maybe I just always fall back on like, I wish these kids play sports. Like, why aren't they playing sports? Like, they wouldn't have this attitude if they were playing sports because they would just be intertwined. And how are you gonna? I mean, you playing football if you're both linemen. How you can not get
Right.
close to that guy next to you? You're slogging along in the mud. Bodies are getting crushed every day. Like you're
Exactly.
bonding like very few things in life can do. That's
You
what I
hold
would hope
hands
out of
in
the
the
military.
huddle.
That's why I'm always surprised when I see the military having like a radical or a MAGA mindset. And I kind of get it. There's that patriotism that the right plays on. But like, I'm also like, weren't they just in foxholes with people of all kind of different colors and backgrounds and trusting them with their lives? Like, didn't that like change how they viewed the world when they come back? So like that kind of I'm mystified by why anyone could come back from service
Right.
in this day and age when it's like a 50-50 black, white, Latino. Like, I don't even know what the mix is, but it's a very mixed bag, and come back with a different viewpoint and come back fighting for, equality and minority rule. And like, I mean, I don't know. It's a little bit of a disappointment, a little bit still of a mystery to me. We'll have to talk to someone who's a white veteran and figure out what,
Yeah. Got a perspective on that. All right, bro. That's going to do it for us. We're over our time, but it was well worth it. We're going to Groundhog Day it again tomorrow.
people can feel free to not watch the whole thing. I hope they make it to the end. All right, good stuff, Mark. Always a
Cool.
pleasure, and I'll
Yes,
talk to you
sir.
tomorrow.
See you
Okay,
tomorrow.
bye bye.
Peace.